Here's another tutorial about a spring skirt. Alright, so do the things. Like, subscribe if you haven't, and hit the notification bell. Alright, follow us on social media and let's get started. This is the Made for Mermaids Sienna skirt, perfect spring skirt. It's available in girl sizes, 12 to 18 months up to 14. Multiple different things here, but let's get into what we need. We're going to need these pattern pieces here, and we're going to do the high-low ruffle waist. You need one of these back pieces cut on a fold, ruffle waist cut line. All right, and we're doing the high-low. We're going to need one of these pieces cut on a fold. See the high-low, make sure you're paying attention to that fold line. Again, we're doing the ruffle waist cut line. And in the cut chart, I think it's page 7 or 11 or one of those. Yeah, there's the elastic that you'll need. You'll need 2 half-inch elastic pieces, and then you need the ruffle tier piece, the high-low ruffle tier. And we're cutting 2 of those on a fold at 22 inches. This is what it looks like when you get all those pieces cut out. We have that back piece cut on a fold, front piece cut on a fold. We have our 2 elastic pieces and our 2 ruffle tier pieces. All right, so let's throw those out of the way. And we're going to put our front and back pieces right sides together. Here is the back piece. As you can see, it swoops down in the back, and the top is straight. I am using a woven fabric. I believe it's like a polywoven, or it could be chiffon. I'm not exactly sure, but it's a woven fabric, so this works really good with woven. You could use knits as well. So now we're going to sew the side seams down here, and we're also going to finish off the top edge. So I did that. I sewed the side seams here, and you are going to finish that edge. So I just did a serge stitch around the edge there. All right, now we're going to go over to our iron and press this down to start making our waist elastic casing. So you're doing the ruffle waist. You can use a tool like this or just any old ruler. I like to use this because it's metal and I can press on it without it melting. So you're going to measure down 2 inches if you're doing the ruffle waist, which if you're following along with me, that's what we're doing. So 2 inches down, and you're going to press all around. It's going to take a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and speed past this. You need to pause it while you're doing. Go ahead. This takes quite a bit of time, but it will make your whole thing a lot easier to do when you are sewing it. Of course, you can always, well, really, there's nothing better than pre-pressing. And you can use starch here to make it a little bit more crispy and hold better when you are ironing, whatever you want to call it. Depends on what part of America you're in, or I guess what part of the world you're in, because you could say it completely different than I do in a different language. All right, so yeah, we're just giving this a good old press with my like thrift shop iron that I got, or that my grandmother actually got for me at a yard sale, I believe, and I've had it for like multiple years, if not decades, to be honest. At least a decade for sure. All right, so once you get that pressed, just double check, make sure it's all good. All right, now we're gonna go make the casing. So you're gonna do this from the top edge. You're gonna do a 1/2 inch from the top edge here. So again, we're just doing a straight stitch, a 1/2 inch from the top here, all the way around, and we're gonna close it. So you don't have to leave a gap for this, okay? Straight stitch, all the way around. I think I've set my length to like 3, but yeah, so all the way around, 1/2 inch from the top. And then when you get to this part here, I'm gonna cut the tails. I'm gonna snip my tails. And then I am going to just overlap and back stitch to keep this stitch in place. I'm gonna overlap my stitches here just to finish it, because we want the entire top line the 1/2 inch line to be the ruffle part of the waist when we add this elastic in. So this is what it looks like. I overlapped at top. Okay. And I'm going to cut these tails real fast, and then we're going to start making the 2 lines for our um, elastic casing. So that was the top stitch for there. This next one, these next 2 lines are going to be 3/4, so like 75% or 75.75, right, of an inch. And we are going to do that 3/4 of an inch from the line that we just sewed, okay? So the best way to do this is going to be obviously to use like a water soluble pen or something, a fabric disappearing ink pen or something like that to do this, or a pencil or something that will disappear. Because I didn't use that and I just tried to kind of like eyeball it, and it was a little difficult. Hindsight, I didn't have any, marking things available, and I was just, trying to eyeball it. Doesn't always work out when you eyeball it. So, if it's an important thing, don't eyeball it, try to mark it. So again, 3/4 of an inch from the line that you just sewed, that was a 1/2 inch from the top. And this is for the elastic. This is for the 2 pieces of elastic. All right, so you can try to measure it and eyeball it like I'm doing here. Or, you can make sure that you did it perfectly and, mark it. That would be the best bet here. Take it from me so you don't have to, struggle through it. Or bend your ruler like I did. Okay, so we're going to make this, and the key here is you are going to need to backstitch a little bit because you are leaving a hole here. And I find backstitching when you're using this elastic and you're keeping this stitch here, when you're inputting the elastic into the hole and you don't have a backstitch, it can kind of, fray and move a little bit. So I backstitch at the beginning and I keep going all the way around. So here we go, all the way around. Wish it was this fast in real life. But then you're going to leave a like 1 to 2 inch gap. So you're not going to close this one. You're going to leave an inch gap. So I kind of put my 2 fingers here, and that's how I gauge the gap that I'm going to leave. And this is how we're going to get our elastic in here. Okay, and backstitch there. So that's what it looks like. So we left that little hole here, and then we're going to do this one more time, and we're still going to do 3/4 of an inch from that line that we just sewed. So another 3/4 over. And again, this is probably going to be best to mark. But it should, if you did it perfectly, it should line up on that serged edge that you folded over. But if not, it is what it is. As long as your elastic fits in the casing, we're good to go. So we're going to go all the way around again and do exactly what we did. Leave the hole in the same place, just on this line now. Okay? So round and round we go. And then when we get to the edge where we started, remember the hole. You're going to want it to be about the same. And backstitch there. Alright, and this is what it looks like. So you have a hole in both the middle, like it's like the middle and then the bottom. So we're going to insert elastic, and the way I do that is first I'm going to snip all these, little tails. And then I use a safety pin. Is that what this is called? I think that's what it's called. I don't know why my brain's not braining today, but yeah, use a safety pin on the end here. There are some elastic tool or like insert tools that you can pull your elastic through. But this is what I have. This is what works for me. If you have a safety pin lying around, so you're gonna stick this up through one of those holes that you left, the gap that you left, and start threading it through. And again, because I didn't mark, this takes me entirely longer than it should, because it shouldn't be that hard to push the elastic through, but because I did not mark mine, it took me a very long time to force this elastic into my tiny casing because I tried to eyeball it. So, again, try to take it from me. Mark your lines if you can. If you have it available, if not, it's not the end of the world. You can make it work, but it's going to take a little extra effort. So you do this with both pieces of elastic though. But do the first one, and then once you get the first one in, we are going to overlap the elastic. So finally, after 50 million years, you are going to pull the elastic out of both sides here. So like once you get the elastic all the way through and around, back around, you're going to overlap the elastic. Take care not to, you know, twist your elastic pieces. So you want them to be like flat all the way around. And we're going to go over here and straight stitch these together so that they don't come apart. And mine get super wonky here too. Sometimes when I'm filming things, I'm trying to do it really fast because I don't want to like take up all your guys' time. So yeah. And again, it's lessons that everything doesn't have to be perfect to work. That's a learning life lesson for me right now. So, all right, because it works, you know. And we are going to snip these little ugly tails so they don't hang out anywhere. And we're going to try to pull this elastic through. And finally, once you get it through, that was off camera, a little struggle getting mine in there. But yeah, so you're going to close the gap. So close that gap that you left open on that middle one, since we're done with that elastic. Take care not to stitch the actual elastic. You want to go right underneath it so that it doesn't make this part straight. I actually accidentally got the elastic, and I will have to go back off camera and fix it for the end result here. But yeah, you would just unstitch it and then, you know, go back and restitch it. So, all right, and here we're going to do take number 2 or try number 2 for the second bit of elastic, which actually ended up going in a lot faster and a lot easier than the first one, because the first one is the one that I very much made too small. Okay, so once you have the elastic done, so I already went into that second piece of elastic. Now we're going to add the ruffle tier pieces or high-low ruffle tier pieces, right? You found these in the cut chart. If somehow you missed that in the beginning of the video, you will find these measurements in the cut chart. Got 2 on a fold, and now we're going to sew these short side seams together. And I just use my serger to do that. Ooh, yeah. Both short seams. That one and that one. And I did that super fast because I'm a superhero. And now we're going to hem, I wish. Now we're going to hem one of these edges down. And again, hindsight, again, that was super fast. I just used my cover stitch to hem that. Hindsight, I would have finished the raw edge of this with a serge stitch to keep it from fraying. This fabric is woven. It does fray really bad. And so here, I would absolutely recommend to serge or stitch before you do this part. I did not do that, so quick tip, serge or stitch that edge if you can. But I'm now lengthening my straight stitch on my regular sewing machine, and I am going to use that little line on my machine to make my first row of basting stitches. So these are going to help with the gathers. I've done gathering a whole bunch of different ways, but with woven fabric, I think my favorite way tends to be these basting stitches because you get exactly where you want it to go. You can move it, you still have wiggle room. And so we're just going around, and I did not backstitch at the beginning of this. Sorry, I totally forgot to tell you that. I did not backstitch. You want to keep these threads loose. So lengthen that straight stitch, keep them loose, and I am going from side seam to side seam with these, because I want to be able to keep my gathers on each piece, the front and the back, because you match up the side seams at the side seam of the actual garment. Just helps keep it all neat and tidy. So we are going to pull the tails kind of long, just to keep them long so you can find them again. Move them out of the way and start again on the next half, so the other side of this loop. Again, don't backstitch, keep it loose. We're going to do this really, really fast. And again, stop when you get right there. Don't overlap and don't backstitch. And that is the first row, and then you're going to do one more on the top here. I like to do 2 rows of basting stitches. It's exactly the same way we just did it. Don't backstitch. And just try to keep a straight line. And again, don't overlap and don't backstitch. Pull that tail kind of long because you don't want to lose the tail. And then finish that last half of the loop, the top portion of that. So one more row. So this is going to be 2 rows on each side. I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. Just a basting stitch. Alright. And what the basting stitch does is you are going to be able to pull the loose threads to create gathers for your ruffle piece here. And I like to go ahead and pull them, make them kind of even at first. Gently pull and tug, like pull to bunch up the pieces and then pull those pieces to the middle. And you can do it from either side. But remember, because I did do that separation on the side seams, you can make this fit the piece, the front piece and the back piece. So like you can match up your side seams, which I'll do in just a minute. But I like to go ahead and create some gathers because it gives me something to work with. And if you're paying attention, you might be able to see a little bit. But it started fraying, not terribly bad, but it did start fraying. And that's why I said when we were finishing this off, it would probably be a good idea to serge the edge before you start the gathers, or before you started the basting stitch. Would have been pretty good. But here I'm going to start attaching the side seams. So you're putting it right sides together and matching up that raw side. So right side to right side here. And I'm just going to go use my clips. And I'm moving the gathers as I go just to get it exactly how I want it. I am securing this side here so it doesn't move. I tend to do that with like one of the sides. And then I'll pull from the other side. But yeah, this is the tedious part here. There are other ways to add gathers as well. This is just the easiest way for me. I've done it other ways before. If you find another way, that's totally cool. If you have a better tried and true way of doing gathers, there's ruffle foots. There are ones that actually attach the gathers as you're gathering, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this is just for the sake of the video. Not everybody has those cool attachments. But yeah, you just match up the gathers to lay the ruffle piece flat against the skirt piece so that when you're trying to attach it, it goes on very simply. And then here I'm going to do the back piece. Just a whole bunch of bunchies. And I apologize for my hoarse voice. We're in Arkansas and the pollen is outrageous. It's out of control. And so it's got my whole, like, yeah, it's all just funky. I got the sinus funk and I don't like it. But yeah, so just keep on gathering. Same concept with this side. You're just doing it along that bottom edge, right sides together, making the bunches, bunch it enough so that it lays flat against that bottom edge, so that when you're attaching the ruffle to the garment, it's super easy and you can just serge it right there. There's not going to be any slack or weird pieces. That's the goal of doing it like this. And then because we are doing basting stitches, once we get this attached, we are going to have to remove those, especially if you can see them. So that's the only downfall to doing it with basting stitches, is you have to remove them. Otherwise it'll look weird. Especially if you didn't do like a phenomenal job on your basting stitches, which if you were intending to take them out, didn't really matter. You did a phenomenal job. So here I am finishing the edge here, clipping it as I go to make sure that I am doing this evenly. Again, this is the most tedious part of this, and it wouldn't be tedious if you were using a ruffle foot or something like that. But I do find, for me personally, if I'm using a ruffle foot, I would need to, let me quit talking. This is where you would serge it. So really you're just going to go through slow and steady, making sure you got the raw edges lining up. I kind of put my hand on top here to hold it flat, to hold those gathered pieces. But yeah, if you had a ruffle foot or a gathering foot or whatever you want to call it, this would be a lot easier. But I do find that kind of like with the binding attachment, you would want to kind of cut it longer than what it says, just so that you have extra. Because it is like it's like a math. There's a perfect like balance between what your settings are and how long your piece is and what you need to set it at to know like the percentages and whatnot, how many ruffles. Like it's not as simple as it seems. Sometimes you just get lucky and have the perfect settings for the perfect length. I have not been so lucky, so I'm going to do some more practice with that. But for now, basting stitches is how I'm doing it, and it still looks good. Just takes a little bit longer. So yeah, go all the way around that bottom edge where we've got the right sides together, the raw edge here that you see. And with doing it with basting stitches like this, you can see that every now and then I will gather, or I will pull the little bunches so that each section before the clip is exactly how I want it before I go over it. And as you can see, that one basting stitch that's on the side of my foot, on the left side of my foot, closest to you guys, is that's one of the basting stitches that is definitely going to need to be removed. The other one, some places it kind of got caught in the seam, so I didn't have to remove it everywhere, but that one is definitely going to have to be removed. But potentially, and most likely, both basting stitches are going to need to be removed. They're both just there to kind of temporarily hold it in place while you do this step. That is the point of the basting stitch. So we're just going to keep going around. Round and round we go. But this has definitely become one of my favorite little skirts. I love this. We're taking a more modest approach, me and my daughter, with what we're wearing, and this skirt is just so cute and so modest. You can throw a t-shirt with it or a little sweater, and it's just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Put some biker shorts underneath it. It's very cute. And the way that it's kind of set up, you could really even put shorts underneath it, like built-in shorts, like a skirt. You could totally do that, especially with the non-ruffle waist. But yeah, I absolutely love this pattern. And there's a whole bunch of options. And there is, I don't know if you caught it in the beginning of the video, it was kind of fast, but there is a women's version of this pattern, the Sienna skirt with Made for Mermaids. So you could totally do some mommy and me things. I'm totally going to have to make me one. I keep saying totally a lot too, so I apologize. All right, so I'm going to speed this up because it's pretty much the exact same thing. And so we'll go speed it up. And the only thing we're going to do after this is top stitch. So stay tuned. Super fast. I really do wish it was that fast. I really do. Sometimes when I'm doing these videos, I'm like, yay. All right, so let's go remove these basting stitches, which I'm going to complete for the majority off camera because me and that is not friends. That is not even correct grammar. But me and the basting stitches, we're not friends tonight, so I spared you all. But just know that if you did it this way and it took forever for you to remove your basting stitches, you are not alone. So yeah, that's the only downfall. Seam ripper can be your friend. It could also be your arch nemesis. And of course, I didn't even have my seam ripper on the camera. So yeah. But like the best bet, like the best thing ever when you're removing this is like you pull the string and it all comes out at once. But like that never happens. That's like a fairy tale. Every now and then you'll get that one golden strand that you just pull and it's like heaven. But yeah, not me, of course. So yeah, I'm gonna go off camera and show this thing who's boss. Showed it who is boss. All right, now we're back and I'm gonna top stitch this. So I'm just gonna top stitch that seam that we just serged the ruffle on. I'm gonna top stitch the serged seam up towards the actual garment here. So we'll pull it in here. This is my cover stitch. I'm using the same settings I use pretty much on everything else. I have a video on the page of my serger settings, I believe, and my cover stitch settings. So you can go check that out if you would like to know that information. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and speed that up because it's the same thing. You just kind of top stitch over that seam, pull that seam up, and make sure top stitching over the seam. Make sure the gathers don't get in the way. And yeah, so I'm going to speed it up. All right, real speed. Yeah. Super fast. Aren't you glad you don't have to hear my machine going? I mean, I guess you would be if I didn't make that noise. But yeah, sorry. Okay, so we're almost done. And gonna give these strings a good old tie off and a good old snip snip. And here's the finished project. So cute, so adorable, so flowy, perfect for spring. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and can't wait to talk to you guys next Tuesday. Bye!